Armenian facts. During World War One, the Young Turks' political reform movement moved to eliminate the Armenian people from the Ottoman Empire. Out of the 2 million total Armenians, 1.5 million were killed. The Armenian people were tortured, massacred, and starved. The majority were sent into the desert to die of thirst and hunger. Many were forcibly removed from Armenia and Anatolia to Syria. The Armenian genocide took place from 1915 to 1918, with renewed instances of brutality occurring between 1920 and 23. By 1923, the Armenian population had been completely eliminated from Asia Minor and historic West Armenia. April 24th is commemorated as the date of the beginning of the Armenian genocide. The genocide started when 300 Armenian leaders, writers, thinkers, and professionals in Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, were collected, deported, and killed. 5,000 of the poorest Armenians were also slaughtered in their homes and in the streets. The United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide was adopted in 1948, 30 years after the Armenian Genocide. Most Armenians in the United States are children and grandchildren of survivors. The Young Turk government restricted the use of photography and reporting, but many American missionaries and diplomatic representatives witnessed the deportations and broke the news outside of the country. At this time, I'm going to read the Survivor Story Part 1 by Robert Fisk. She was a child of the Great War, born on a faraway killing fields of which we know little. One of the very last witnesses to the last century's first genocide, sitting in her wheelchair, smiling at us, talking of Jesus and the Armenian children whipped by the Turkish police, whom she saw through the cracks in her wooden front door. It's not every day you get to meet a finite, an observer of human history, and soon at last we will not see her like again in our lifetime. They took me to Yevnigi Selaban last week up in the Mission Hills of California, whose warm breezes and plum trees were not unlike the town of Antab, in which she was born more than 100 years ago. She is an old lady now in a home of the elderly, but with a still impeccable memory and equally sharp and brutal scar on her thigh, which she displays without embarrassment, where a horse's rein suspended her above a ravine until she almost bled to death in her final flight from Armenian homeland. She was born on 14 January 1914, the daughter of Alpash Aposhan, an Intab copper merchant who taught his 5 children the story of Jesus from a large Bible which he held on his lap as he sat with them on a carpet on the floor of their home. They were, like so many Armenians, a middle-class family, and Alpash and Turkish friends, and although Yevnen does not say so, it appears he traded with the Ottoman army, which probably saved their life. When the first deportations began, the Salabans were left in their home, but the genocide lasted till the very last month of the Great War. It had begun within weeks of the Allied landing at Gallipoli, and in 1917 the Turks were still emptying Itab of its Armenians. That's when the sound of crying led 3-year-old Yevgeny to the front door of her home. It was an old wooden door, and there were cracks in it, and I looked through the cracks, she says. There were many children outside without shoes, and the Turkish gendarmes were using whips to drive them down the street. A few had parents. We were forbidden to take food to them. The police were using whips on the children in using big sticks to beat them with. The sounds of the children screaming on the deportation, still I hear them as I look through the cracked door. So many parents were killed in the first year of the Armenian genocide that the orphans, tens of thousands of feral children who swarmed through the land in their absence, were only later driven out by the Turks. These were tiny deportees whom Yevnigis saw. The Apotians, however, were able to cling on until the French army arrived in eastern Turkey after the Ottoman surrender. But when Mustafa Kemal Ataturk launched a guerrilla war against the French occupers of his land, the French retreated. And in 1921, the surviving Armenians fled with him to Syria. Among them, Yevnega and her family packed into a two horse-drawn cart. She was among the very last Christians to leave her Armenian homeland. My family was divided between two carts. I changed places with the old lady. It was at night and over a ravine. Our horses panicked and the cart overturned and an iron bar killed the old lady and I was thrown over the edge of a bridge. And only the horse rings saved me when they got wrapped around my leg. Jesus saved me. I hung there and there was the hush sound of my blood pouring out of me. Yevnig shows the harsh scar on her leg. It has bitten deeply into the muscle. She was unconscious for 2 days, slowly recovering in Aleppo and then Damascus, and finally into the sanctuary of Beirut.